I don't know. I don't know what they're waiting for. Maybe, I think they got a quorum there. And I'm not sure Drew was going to be able to make it tonight. So I think that's everybody.
I'm gonna send Mike a text real quick.
Okay.
Just tell him we can't hear anything. It's weird that they can't hear us.
I think Jody might not just have the volume turned up yet.
We need to start because we're gonna run out.
There we
of time.
go.
Oh, where's Chris?
He's on
We can
there.
hear you.
That's better. Thanks.
So we'll call the meeting to order, and I just need a motion to approve the January 17th, 2023 minutes.
And I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Anything that we need to be briefed on with city budget, or should we just get right into the snowplow?
Let's get right in. Yeah, Jody, I can hear you.
Can't hear
Yeah,
you.
let's get right into it. Can't hear me. Your volume. Can you turn your volume up?
Cannot hear you.
Jody, can you turn the volume up?
Can you hear us?
Craig can.
Okay.
We cannot hear you.
I can hear you, Chris.
Yeah, so it's them there. I'm gonna call Mike real quick.
That's the problem.
I think he's saying like, turn it up.
Yes.
Still cannot hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Mike?
You can do that, Jody?
No, they don't have it turned up.
Okay, just a minute.
Try again, Chris.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So don't answer your phone, Mike. We're still good.
Okay.
And Jody, I can barely hear you, but maybe your mic's not turned on.
So Chris, in the interest of time, I think we're going to skip a briefing on the latest city budget numbers and go right to the capital expense plan discussion on snow plows.
It's a great idea. Is Dave Stones there?
Dave is here. Dave Stones.
Okay, and
Corbett is here. And
okay, and then Craig's online.
I think Craig's on.
Yeah, Craig and I have been communicating. We could hear each other online, so. I think it might be best just to have Dave summarize his thoughts, and then we can have Corbett and Craig give their thoughts, and then move right along.
So, got lots of different options.
Dave needs.
Looked at lots of different
Get a mic.
options on trucks, and just to give a little bit of things, I've driven the old trucks, so, you know, before the city made the decision to buy newer trucks, well, lease them. And so I have a pretty decent amount of, let's say, exposure to things that work and don't work. Talked to the other drivers that drove the ones in the past, those that are driving the current ones. I think you already have the spreadsheets. My proposal is really simple. I started to look at tons of different options in the sense it all came down to math. In the sense, even at my work, everything boils down to math. You make priorities based upon all kinds of factors, right? Opportunity costs, uptime, tons of things. I know within the city it's a little different. The service here is, I always think is to look at a problem. What is the problem we're trying to solve in the city for snow plowing? It is so that people can get up and down the mountain, whether it's the residents or those that visit, in safe as possible during most of the time. Now, granted, there's certain storms that can be a challenge. There's no getting around that. There's 27 lane miles of road that have to, and sometimes it's snowing all at the same time. And so the trucks being on the road is the level of service that we have now established. Okay, we have 2 trucks that have been leased. They've been new. Obviously, at the time that they were leased, they're already starting to have problems. Case in point, I'm stressed right now. I'll tell you why.
We
One of the
heard,
trucks was taken to Rush to have a simple part replaced and something else happened. That truck will not be available during what I view as probably the biggest storm of the season. The service truck, great truck, but back years ago, we projected that that truck would need to be replaced probably next year or the year after. Cross our fingers that it can hold on that long, okay?
The great truck. Did you say
The
great?
service truck,
Okay.
the smaller one,
Yeah.
I don't know how old it is, but you ever
Got
want to
the
experience,
V-
yeah,
V-
V-plow. If you want experience, I'll take you in that one. But I mentioned that in the context of that truck is down a lot. Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Used equipment will break down no matter how it's repaired. It's just as going to happen. When that happens during a storm, I am stressed out of my mind. So you know, yeah, I'm stressed right now. And I just say that from a context of I feel responsible to make sure the roads are taken care of. There's a big truck. There's a bigger truck. It's like what we call the Big O, Big Orange, or for just maybe contextual sake. It's a big truck. It's the only platform really that can widen the roads. But from a practical perspective, that truck has only been available half the time this year. Now, so we have to make a decision from a finance committee. Do we put more money into it, or do we look at other options? That's the only platform big enough to widen the roads, okay? Now, there's some other options we could look at. I don't want to get into that because that's not what this meeting is about. But just so you realize that tonight, we have 3 trucks. 2 of them are down, let's say roughly anywhere from half the time to 30% of the time. If they go down, we are screwed. I hate to use that word, but it's going to happen. If they all go down, then we're all out with shovels, okay? But having those 2 trucks that have been leases, I have been able to drive those hour after hour after hour without worrying about if it's going to break down. Now, that doesn't mean things don't happen. Our roads aren't, I mean, for the 10,000 miles that these 2 mid-sized internationals that have been leased have been used, those are rough miles.
are they our most dependable trucks?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
We authorized those 3 years.
3 years ago, okay? Now, we're in a state right now where Rush will let us keep the current trucks until the new ones arrive.
Awesome.
There's also been a proposal of let's buy the current ones, but there's risks involved with that. You have a capital outlay of $100,000 with no specific guarantee that they'll be sold. So the proposal is one of the things is buy and sell, just because maybe you can sell them for more than they're worth. However, if we do buy them and they do get sold, then we don't have trucks for summer maintenance. Okay? Last year, the trucks were down with some, I don't know, let's call some logistical challenges, maybe with the dump beds and things like that. We kind of missed a season of, let's say, road repair, shoulder repair. Rush will let us keep the trucks till the new ones arrive. Obviously, you then pay whatever the amount is, $1,000 something a month per truck, probably the same lease rate, right? At the same time, then, if hypothetically the new trucks don't come in by the first storm, then we still have them to use. But I can tell you from somebody, maybe I'll use this analogy. If you've ever driven a vehicle and then you let your kids drive it for a while and you get it back and it's like, well, why is this happening? Did you listen to that? Maybe the way for me to do it is this way. I drive these trucks all the time. I sometimes even rotate which truck I'm driving in the middle of the night just so I can kind of listen to it. The 2 mid-size internationals are having and will have more problems, guaranteed. We should be looking at least my proposal is this, getting new lease trucks, at least 2 every 3 years. Because they are going to have challenges within the 3 years that they are leased, at least toward the latter part. I hear the creaks that weren't creaking 2 months ago. When I lift the plow, when I shift it to the right or left, I hear a pop, right, every now and again. A Ram isn't cheap, but we're going to be turning them in, right? I mean, so I'm just using that as context, all right? There's other options. I looked at probably myriad of options. I only put down 3 because in the end, they all just begin to blur into the same options. To me, it's math. Not only math as far as our expenditures now, but then what that expenditure would look like in the future. And then on top of that, what service level of maybe blame us as plow drivers. I think we've established a little different level of service with plowing. I sometimes pray that I can get to Woodland Hills knowing that if I can get close to the roundabout, I'll probably make it home, okay? And I think I kind of hear the same sentiment from a lot of people.
Salem roads. Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah, it's easier to get from the roundabout up here than
Yeah.
it is to get to the roundabout.
So I put that all out there as there's a ton of options. I looked at them all mathematically and some other things, but I also then took into account uptime and what our service is and what the problems that we're trying to solve. So my proposal is to do 2 leases, yet again, right? Now, there might be some other options as far as do we buy and then try to sell those. I mean, there's some risk involved in that. I know that there's other options. I know Corbett has some. I've plugged those numbers in too. I just look at it as there's lots of options. But the one that I am proposing is the one that I feel most comfortable with. And part of that is I want it to be like a 911 call, right? When snow hits, I want to drive up, open the door downstairs, turn on the key, wait till the glow plugs, wait for the glow plugs, start it up, lift the plow blade up, and either start plowing or go down to the salt shed and load salt and plow and salt. As opposed to, okay, I've got to worry about this breaking or this breaking, and hey, I'm not saying that my stress level has anything to do with it, but that's why I propose option 1, one with a dump, one with a flatbed, and obviously they're going to be about 30,000, a little bit less for the flatbed. There's other options. There's a lot of good options up there, but that's the one that I want to just put forward as proposing.
Dave, are you saying then at the end of our lease, they will extend that on a monthly basis?
Yes, until the new trucks come in. Now, should we have started this process 6 months ago? Yes. And so it's always something to learn. And even with the current 2 trucks, this is not a knock on anybody. We all do things. I won't tell you that I haven't backed into a snowbank, something like that. There was a few things done with the 2 mid-sized trucks that have caused some problems, but they've still been usable. There's some electrical things that, you get water on some of that stuff and it creates some problems when the hood's open, okay? In the future, we just won't do that kind of stuff. So would I expect that things that we've learned up to now that we can improve on, right? But there's all kinds of things that we learn and improve. It's never a fixed thing that we can't learn and improve. We can run more efficiently. We've tried to mess with the salt, the amount of salt that we're doing and where. Problem is this year has been super slick, and so it's been kind of a problem. I know you guys had to approve more salt. That wasn't intentional. We actually tried to really ratchet that stuff down and during certain spots, but we're getting this ice layer. It's been like that every storm. Because we had enough salt probably to last the entire year.
Well, it's been extremely cold too, so everything just freezes
Well,
at night.
that's actually when it's not as slick. Weird. So the last little bit hasn't been as slick. It's that 31, 32, 33 of this. It's been weird because most of it's been that, Janet. Now, probably up by you, it's a little different. Oh, by the way, throughout the city, it's different too. Like toward the south and the east, or the north and the west, totally different environments almost, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I could keep blathering on, but I don't know if that's enough or not. So, I mean, that's if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Once again, I'm just here to do a proposal. It'll be up to you and then the city council to make a determination. The best course of action, obviously. These trucks are not cheap. And there's a bunch of things to consider. So I just thought I'd put that out there.
So you saw Corbett's email, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've got numbers from Corbett. I plugged some in. I've seen all of his numbers. I don't necessarily disagree that this stuff can all be built and put together. I would just say this. So as an example, the number 2 truck, we call it number 2, okay? Went to go to Rush with a very simple fix. A part came in, it should have been bada bing, bada boom, you're back and all's good, right? Well, something else happened and now it's going to be down. The reality is this, is used equipment continues to get used in the future, even if it's new today. 3 years from now, it's just to talk just capital outlay, right? There's once again, tons of options, and I've seen all this stuff, and even at work, I'll look at 1 billion options for stuff while you're trying to arrive at something. And sometimes, there's different options to look at. Is let's say what you buy, let's say you take off used equipment and you put it on new trucks and you have a capital outlay up front because you're buying components, right? And there's always an opportunity cost, there's labor costs. But no matter what, that equipment is going to age. Aged equipment will, no matter what, even if it's fixed, even if it gets repaired and maintained, it's still going to break more frequently than new equipment. And so even if you take what's today, put it in, I have total confidence that Corbett can do all this stuff. It has zero to do with that. is something can always be fixed. But then what are you going to happen 3 years from now? Now you're going to have already had this capital outlay. Are your maintenance costs now to the point that, well, why don't we just go ahead and buy this stuff again or lease again? So there's a lot of stuff to weigh here.
Yeah.
In that, do you take something that's used today, put a bunch of new components around it, and get the same level of service? No, you're not. There's just no way. There's no context around that. And so if the city is willing to say, okay, once again, there's even a balance there because a cost saved today is potentially a future cost that you're going to have later on anyway. And so in that context, then you have to weigh of what is the city's appetite and its residents and those that come up here for maybe less uptime. Okay. I mean, I take all those into and once again, some director today told me that my head's messed up, and that's correct. There was a new employee, somebody that sits by me, they were saying something nice about me, and then one of the directors came out and said, "No, David's messed up." Well, that's true. A lot of stuff rattles around my brain, and I try to take 100 different factors into play, put them all out there, and then try to make what I view is an educated thing. Doesn't mean that these other options aren't viable. They certainly are. I'm just trying to weigh a myriad of different things and future costs, current costs, capital outlays as opposed to a lease, because then you have these various things that play into that. So
is your proposal then, is it saying that we would get new plows also?
the whole kit and caboodle, the whole thing. Once again, there is probably some options there. As an example, the reason why I brought up the plow thing earlier is, as an example, today, I'm not saying this stuff can't be fixed, is you lift the blade and you move it right or left and it pops. Now, it doesn't always do that. What does that tell me? There's something wrong with the ram. Maybe there's some fluid issues. The reality is used equipment is used and it will continue to become more used and break down more often. So now let me revert to when I drove the trucks before that were also used equipment. They broke down. A ram would explode, this thing. I think, again, we try to mitigate that by making sure that, it's on the annual mechanical. Yeah, thank you. Those kind of things. Doesn't mean that those things can't be repaired. That's not that at all. It's just, do we want that? Because if that happens, so the other night, and thank goodness Corbett's around, call him in the middle of the night, I'm sitting there futzing with the thing because driving somewhere, and some of this stuff just happens, right? There's just things just happen, and it happens no matter, even if they're new, by the way. A little pin broke off, the plow then started to float, and by the way, needed plowed. I can't remember what time, 3 a.m. I go back to the city center because the other plow was there, but the other truck was down a rush. We already knew that. It's like, okay, it's not gonna be too bad. We'll deal with what we have. Well, I couldn't get the dadgum thing. Well, maybe I got it off. But I couldn't get the new one on. No, I couldn't get it off. Anyway, it doesn't matter. One, I'm not a mechanic. I couldn't get the thing off. I had to wake Corbett up in the middle of the night to come and use some kind of hammery thing. And then I took the service truck out while he did that. Great. And by the way, Corbett always does that, or Craig does it. It's not to say that they don't do that. It's just when that happens, then it's suboptimal for plowing. It's not that stuff can't happen. It's just with used equipment, it's going to happen more frequently. So I don't know if that's a long-winded, actually it was a long-winded answer. So I don't know what.
Well, we definitely need snow plows or require everybody to get snowmobiles.
We used to have
Or
those,
snow
but then we moved to Washington and sold them because, hey, Washington doesn't have any snow. So.
And
Well,
Corbett has a different,
Do you have anything else, Dave?
No. I would say turn with Corbett, get his. I just thought I'd give you what my proposal is and my perspective of it. So absolutely. Yep. You're welcome.
Appreciate that. And we appreciate all you do.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Corbett, would you give us your
view.
view there?
I guess my view is, from what I understand, and again, I'm not saying that I know or have heard about everything that's happened, but the issues that we've had will not make any difference whether it's a new plow or a new truck or a new plow or an old plow. The reason I say that, Dave talked about exploding rams. When you're driving down the side of the road, if the plow is all the way to one side or the other, there's a mechanical stop. And if you're not against that mechanical stop, where it's steel against steel, and you hit something hard, then the pressure in the system, the pressure on the hydraulic system spikes. I used to have it downstairs, but we had a hydraulic ram where somebody hit a pallet of sandbags, and it just peeled that ram like it was a banana. The system pressure generally runs about 2,500 psi, and when you hit something hard and you're not in a mechanical stop, that pressure can spike to 20,000. And it doesn't matter if it's brand new or old. If you're not doing it the right way, it blows hydraulic hoses. It just can't handle the pressure. And so I'm saying that the issues that we've had have all been operator error. None of the issues have been issues that would make a difference if it was new or old. We ruined the pumps on the brand new trucks. We wore out the pumps because the way that we were using it, and Craig fixed it, or the guys, or Rush fixed it as far as the program and the way that the trucks were set up to use the rams on the dump beds. So you're plowing snow, but you're also trying to lift the dump bed, and it doesn't work. And so we ruined the rams on the dump bed, the mechanical lifting mechanism on the trucks. They've changed it. We replaced the pumps, or Craig replaced the hydraulic pumps, and away we go. Again, operator error. Aside from that, we've never had an issue that I know of with the spreaders on the trucks. Michael keeps them greased. Salt is hard on equipment, but as long as you keep it greased and you keep it clean, then it makes all the difference in the world. I'm just saying that I think there's another option, that we don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Good points, all of them.
It's not snowing yet, it's going to.
It's
Hammer.
it
It's-
was snowing when I came.
It was snowing at my
At
house.
Tom it was, yeah.
At my
So
house
we're
it
actually
was.
watching that. That's a whole different subject, because we need higher cameras.
Are you saying that Janet and I?
Do I need to close
too
my
high?
blinds?
No, we put cameras up
Tim
higher.
lives up high too.
We used to have cameras up higher.
I have
Well,
blinds.
whatever decision, we submit to the city council just needs to be well thought through, and we need to do the best thing for this city financially and or economically, and making sure that we have equipment that works. Those are the two issues. Chris, do you have any thoughts from a budget standpoint?
I don't, there's, like I said, there's
Can't hear
two,
you.
I can't hear you again, Chris. Sorry.
Can you put it through?
should I try it now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Am I on mute? Okay. But both arguments are compelling. I'm not mechanically inclined, so I lean towards the newer equipment. Maybe if I was more mechanically in mind, I might be more on Corbett's, side where I can go fix things. But I think about the level of service that's been created in Woodland Hills, and the young teenagers and those that are driving home late at night from work and Spanish work and stuff. I want to make sure that those roads would be cleared for everybody coming up. But I spoke my piece when we did it 3 years ago. I thought that was the right decision. I think it's done the city well. And that would still be the way I'd go. The trucks are significantly more expensive this time than they were last time also. But that's my recommendation, is to continue leasing everything brand new.
So Chris, just one question. That $30,000 difference between the two plans, is that a deal breaker? Do we have the budget to be able to get all the?
Yeah, I'm waiting for the lease rates to come back from Bank Corp, and I haven't seen those yet. But I think, David, if you're still there, I think there was the option to change the back end of one of the trucks down and lower the price by $20,000. Am I right, David?
We don't do two dump beds.
Sorry, I'm looking at the weather.
I gotta make sure the roads are right.
Do one flatbed and one.
Yeah, and the reason is, this is not my call, is I'm not so sure that two dump beds are needed. I'm not saying they're not, but it just seems like one dump bed would get it, and it does drop the price significantly. And I think a flatbed would actually work really well too, actually. Because it kind of would almost alleviate that pushing the button thing. And by the way, I think it's good that Corbett mentioned that because there is things that we learn. One that you shouldn't try to push the button down. That's actually not the plow. But just stuff like that. So I think so that lowers the cost. But I also want to do this too. Is when I do projections, I do all costs. There's a term that I've used for many decades. It's called your true actual cost. It is never just something. If there's like Corbett's time costs money, and not only that, but the opportunity cost. Now I'm not saying that Corbett doesn't do a great job in doing the fixing, but are all costs included in the end? Because that's how we did it a long time ago. We actually had to do maintenance costs. We projected maintenance costs. Any truck is going to have increased maintenance over time. Parts start to wear out. The salt does corrosion. By the way, I mean, hey, anything can be fixed, but that costs money. And so, and then those maintenance costs or opportunity costs of something else that the city needs done, not being done, all cost money. Whether it's then you have to put into overtime. I'm just saying there's all these things involved. Lots of good options to consider. But yes, having one dump bed and then one flat certainly drops, from an average cost.
We can buy a big plow or a mountain spreader right to the frame.
No use for a flatbed other times of the year.
You can't see any use for a flatbed.
We don't haul lumber. Everything that we haul by ourselves. Whatever you haul, you have to unload it. And if you're using a flatbed to haul gravel or rocks or whatever,
Yeah, that won't work.
No, I was just thinking like pipes. I mean, that's why I put it there. There's lots of things that, from a water perspective. Once again, I'm just hypothesizing the way to lower the cost, right? So
Corbett, your proposal is buying new trucks or leasing new trucks and then
Building them.
building all the equipment that we presently have, putting it on the trucks. The
Yeah, I
snow
mean-
plows, everything.
Yeah, and it takes 5 minutes to unhook the plow and back away from it. It takes 5 minutes to pull into it and hook it on and drive off with it. There's nothing to it. It's the mounting hardware that is mounted to the frame on the current trucks that you would take off and put on the frames of the new truck. The frames are the exact same frames. The mounting hardware is the exact same mounting hardware. The engine is the exact same engine. It's just 3 years newer. The hydraulics is a box that bolts to the frame on the side of the truck underneath the bed. That's it. It's the exact same. And so, yeah, my proposal is get new trucks. The trucks are what is taking all the maintenance. Aside from we broke the welds on one of the plows, but that's going to happen no matter if it's brand new today or if it's 3 years old. That's going to happen. You hit a manhole and plowing is absolutely hard on equipment. And so I'm just saying, yeah, buy new trucks. That's where the issues have been for the last 3 years. Whether it's because we put diesel fluid in the diesel exhaust, or we put diesel fuel in the diesel exhaust fluid tank, or we pressure wash under the hood and force water into all of the electrical connections. It's the trucks where we've had the issues, not with the plows or the hydraulics or the spreaders.
So Dave, how much could we sell these trucks for?
there's one that's been on sale. When Jody initially saw this, there's one
I'm
on
talking
s-
fully loaded.
It had the dump bed on it, so it didn't have a spreader. It was 65,000. Still for sale. So there is a risk, right? There is
So
a
not
risk.
able to sell it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, there's a risk in that. And the reality is whether it's the truck or the other equipment, the older equipment is going to break down more. I drove these older trucks. They had a lot of problems. It wasn't just the trucks. It was the spreaders. It was the hydraulics. It's the components and the hoses. I don't disagree, but you cannot say that an older piece of equipment is not going to need increased maintenance. I would disagree with that.
Craig has a comment.
I'm not saying that once again, if you're saving a lot of money, that's great. But to say that the spreaders and that is not going to have increased maintenance, I would think that that is not correct, because no matter what you're going to have increases, you got something breaking. And I'm not saying that.
No, and I agree.
That outweighs stuff. It's just, it's going to happen. And you have used, you're going to have increased costs associated with the used. I just want to put that out. It's not that it's free because it's used and you've already now paid for it. You are going to have increased costs.
I think the question becomes, will those increased costs exceed the savings that we're having up front?
Craig has a comment. He had his hand up.
Craig, time's yours.
Yeah, thanks, you guys.
Versus-
Just a couple things. So as far as the equipment, when you really look at downtime, and to say that we don't have any problems with the plow and the spreader, I've replaced all the cage bearings in the spreader now once. The salt eats it. It's just hard on it. One of the plows is bent. The main frame is bent. And as these things get older, that's when you're going to start blowing hydraulic lines. As they age, rubber just doesn't age well. And yeah, the first 3 years we've had no hydraulic hose lines. I've had some valve leaks, but they've been O-rings. But that's been in that hydraulic system. We've probably done, I don't know, maybe half a dozen, 10 O-rings that have started leaking. But it's really about the downtime. It's about the time that it takes for us to go and fix this stuff when we don't even have time to finish the stuff that we have in the city. And it just seems like it's an emergency service. Our plowing has never been this good. And the last 3 years, we have called nobody to come and help us plow our city. Before we bought these new trucks and new equipment, we had costs that we were having to pay other people to come into our city to help us plow. So it's kind of like David said, it's a big picture. It's something you put in place and then you don't have to worry about it. We still have problems. I mean, like Corbett's right. I mean, people are still going to hit things and that kind of stuff. We try to take care of that as it comes up. But the equipment is getting worn. The plows are getting worn. The pivot points are worn. It's just so hard on them. And the good thing is right now it still has value to somebody that's not in the emergency snow removing business. We're in the emergency snow removing business, not just snow removal. So I don't know. That's my take on it. I've been in the automotive industry my whole life, and there's times to save money and there's times when you won't save money. As far as selling the trucks, we could try to run it selling the trucks just before the lease is up, see if we get any bites on them, because then we're not committed. We have no capital outlay in it. We could put one online and just see what kind of reaction you get and see if it's any good. So yeah, I don't know. That's just my take on it. I've been working up here through both the new trucks and the old trucks, and I'm telling you, I like the new trucks a lot better.
It's gone up about 40%. And that's just.
What's that?
Meaning from the. What? I think it's on. But here, let me just say something, since Craig and Corbett, you mentioned maintenance and stuff. I have zero concern about calling up or texting either one, knowing that they'll be able to fix it. That's not my concern. The reality is, if you use used in any concept, well, this is just a decision you guys have to make. It's not my decision. I'm just sitting here blathering, right? We're going to be calling or texting them more often. That's just the reality of it. That's not even a question. It's just going to happen. I mean, I've seen that over all the years. So there is something to weigh here, but I can get a hold of Corbett, and Corbett will be up here in the middle of the night. I can get a hold of Craig, and they're working through these issues. And I mean, I've already given my proposal, and I'm still going to stand behind that as my proposal. And once again, I'm just one viewpoint. This is not to take away from other proposals by any means, or the savings that that could potentially have for the city. Just want to, yet again, just say that I still, with all this, I know all this stuff. I mean, I know all these proposals. I looked at them. That doesn't change the concept of it for me. And I hate to say this, I'm out there every night. You know, I wake up every hour, checking to see if there's snow. And the last thing I want to do is not have something work. Because guess what? When the bus guy in his Suburban starts driving around the city at 4, 5 in the morning, you know, he wants to know it's ready so the school buses can come up. The reality is that if our trucks are down and they're being worked on, the school buses are not coming up. And the school district makes that decision before 6 a.m. each morning. I don't know if people know that or not.
They drive up here, really?
They drive up physically.
Interesting.
Yeah. I just, once again, just another little tidbit that maybe nobody knows about.
Well, it just seems like maybe they just call
You'd think.
somebody.
They would think they
Some-
would.
Like
but some-
you.
I don't know why they
Sometimes,
you.
sometimes they
Since you're
do.
up, they ought to call you.
Sometimes they do call.
Adam Heaton is the supervisor over the buses.
Okay.
And yeah, sometimes he calls,
Okay.
sometimes he drives here on his way to work.
So once again, it's just a little tidbit, a piece of information. And it's just my perspective, once again. I mean, it's not to take away from anything that others have proposed or Corbett has put together. It's just, things for you guys to consider. Once again, you're considering it from even a different perspective than I am, right? I'm jaded. Maybe you think of it that way. Because I want the stuff to work, and I want it to work in a consistent manner. And for the last 3 years, it has worked better than it has in the past. It's not to take away from what we had in the past. We had what we had, and the decision was made to go this route. And the last 3 years have been exponentially better from an overall plow perspective.
We did make a good decision 3 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good to know.
And by the way, it's not like we don't need more plows, but we can't afford 4 new plows. Okay? We deal with the fact that we have used ones that are down a lot. And I build that into the context. So just realize that if you come with an option that says, okay, we're going to now have 4 used plow systems, even though some of this platform, part of the platform may be new, there is going to be a degradation of service. There is no getting around that. It's just a decision you guys need to make as a city, and then the city council. And that's just the reality of it. It's not good or bad. It's just we will adjust as needed and try to work within whatever the city provides the snowplow drivers.
So, Craig, I might have cut you off, and my apologies for that. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Oh, no, nope, I appreciate you guys listening.
Okay,
Well, I think, Mike, that I would propose.
This is
go
yours.
New on the
In the
2,
back.
if the budget will allow that. If we have budget to go new on the 2 plows, that we do that and eliminate some of the repair costs in the future.
how do you feel, Janet?
I think we need the new too. I appreciate, I know that Corbett's always trying to save money. And I think there's a lot of areas that he's saved the city so much money. And I appreciate that, but for me, I have to go to PG every day, and I appreciate knowing that the roads are gonna be plowed and that, like tomorrow, I brought my laptop home, because I'm kind of banking on I probably won't be able to get down tomorrow. But I think we owe it to our citizens. And, mentioned the teenage drivers. It only takes 1 or 2 cars stuck on Woodland Hills Drive to stop everybody from being able to go up and down, because they block the road, and then none of us can get up or down because they're in the way. So that's just my 2 cents.
I appreciate that. I don't know the best way to handle this, to get a decision to the council. Can we
just propose that we recommend to the council that we get the 2 new leases complete with all the plows and hydraulics and everything?
I think that would be the route to go.
And
That's what the mayor's looking for.
yeah, I think they're looking for our recommendation. That was my understanding from city council.
How do you feel?
Agreed.
Well, I've always appreciated Corbett's view, and I know that
I agree.
he is, his interest is in the best interest of everybody up in Woodland Hills. We're fortunate to have him. And, so I've tried to really, I just got this tonight. I haven't had time to really digest a lot of it. And I'm wondering if we could take a day and then we can send it, you can send your recommendations to me, and then I will forward that to the city council.
Can we do that, Jody?
Can we do that? Yeah,
Okay.
that's my recommendation, because I really want to study a couple of things. Make sure, but I'm going to be outvoted anyway, so.
Well, I want to do what makes sense, but I like the dependability of the new, and we're just going to wear it out.
Well, I do too. There's no question about that. New is usually better and will last, you're getting something new, so it's.
The 40% increase is tough to swallow.
Yeah, because our revenues didn't go up that much.
Yeah.
So Chris, where do we have?
40%. 40% is everything this year. I don't, like I said, I'm waiting for the lease rates to come back from Bancorp to see exactly where they're going to come in at. We've got the two options here. Regardless of what we do buying new, we still have the option and should look at a recommendation to city council. Do we want to keep the old ones and try and sell them? Or do we just want to turn them back in? Here's your keys. Thanks, bank. That was awesome. You guys deal with it. I know the mayor's not looking for a particular recommendation on that, but that may come up here in the near future also. The nice thing is the bank is willing to let us continue using these trucks until the new trucks come in, like
I have a
was brought up
question.
earlier.
Can we
Yes.
do one all new and do one with the
Yeah.
best of the existing
Yeah, that's-
equipment?
I was thinking of that as maybe a possible.
Not just trying to be not just for the sake of compromise, but can we take the best of the equipment and put it on one and get another one all new? Is that something that would be?
Just do what you want, but here's just thought on that last point. So, think of yourself buying a vehicle. And by the way, I thought of this actually today. Why I didn't think of this earlier? I mean, sometimes, like that one guy said, my head's messed up at times. Somebody that's doing a research of buying these trucks, you know what they're going to run into is that these things have been in quite a bit. Just as a thought. So if you were doing your own Carfax and trying to buy something, and all of a sudden you saw that, oh, by the way, all these things had happened, you might be a little leery. Just thought I'd throw that out there. I didn't even think that till today. I don't know why I didn't think of it till today. I don't know why I didn't think of it just now. Actually, I thought of it earlier today. So to me, doesn't mean you can't buy them and sell them, because to be honest, they have a few things that need to be fixed that Rush is aware of. But the prospective buyer is going to know that.
So for us to buy them, it's 50,000.
50,000 apiece.
50,000 apiece. So
Yeah.
anything. we
And I
can sell
think
them
that,
for
to be honest, I
above
think
that.
they would be able to sell for easily above that, even with the challenges that they've had, just so you know.
Is
So-
that you're thinking 5, Corbett? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying that to me, and maybe it's a downfall, but you have to look at the whole picture, because if you pay 50,000 for those trucks and it saves you 30,000 in equipment that you're not going to purchase, doesn't that mean you only have to net 20 on the truck?
Yeah.
Or if you sell the truck for 20, you've got a net 0. Anything over 20 is money saved. Unless I'm thinking it wrong.
And you're saying to keep the equipment, the plows and the hydraulics and the salt machine.
Well, but I'm saying, the lease isn't up until July 1, right?
May 20 something.
Is that right,
Okay,
Chris?
So if we've got the trucks till May, the end of May 26th, I think, now that I think about it. If we've got the trucks until May 26th, regardless, why can't you sell them now? Or why can't you sell them contingent on receipt of the new trucks, when that time comes, whatever it is?
You have to
I mean,
get
I'm
the
just-
right buyer, I guess.
And the only thing I'm saying is just consider your options. If you want to buy all new equipment, please don't think I want used equipment. If you buy brand new equipment every single year, sign me up. But I think it's a waste of money. We drive that old truck downstairs because we've never been willing to put out the money to buy a new truck, big enough to widen the roads. And even that truck has its limitations. And so if you think I want used equipment and I'm advocating for used equipment, you're wrong. If you'll buy new equipment, please do. You just don't have the money for it. We don't have money for everything else that needs to be done.
Like our
And so I
roads.
settle for used equipment because that's all you've been able to afford.
And that's why I phrased what I did, because I'm not sure that I have a good enough handle on the overall budget to know what areas are gonna have to be cut to get new equipment.
I'm the same.
And that's why I wonder about the compromise. Is that good enough?
But also consider, if you can save that much money, could you afford a third truck? And now you just increase your fleet. The two mid-sized trucks do 90% of plowing. And if you can save enough money and buy a third truck, you just increased 90% of the time that you plow by 50%.
This is a seven on that. I disagree. However, the next plan.
Yeah, but you still end up with extra costs because of used
Service-
equipment.
You need to invest in a service truck, whether you lease that or not, that, and the service truck downstairs is going to. So take that into consideration, because that size is what's needed for the cul-de-sacs and a bunch of other reasons, right? For water and that. I'm just saying, the finance committee, next year, or the year after, cross your fingers that that service truck.
So what is the service truck? What model?
The truck with the crane,
Okay,
It's a little light, is it a Ford?
it's a 3/4.
3/4.
Yeah, it's a 2008, I think.
Yeah, it's an 08.
I'm gonna cut off Greg, I think he was trying to say something.
Greg, are you trying to say something?
Well, I mean, you can talk about saving money, but you don't save money. It still ends up costing you. You pay now, you pay later. The good thing is you've got, if you have a fixed cost, that's always beneficial. Anytime you have an unknown cost, like repairs, it's detrimental because you have to start going searching for the money at that point. And typically you've already spent it on something else. So I'm all for saving money. I'm very good with our budget, but there's sometimes when I think cutting corners is detrimental to the overall budget and time. The time's the biggest one for me.
Also, just,
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for your hard
We
work.
appreciate we're gonna close this meeting now.
and then I hope I get to the airport tomorrow.
Yeah,
Is there any,
Thanks for considering this, and of course, Corbett, you and Craig, thanks for keeping these plows on the road.
quick question.
So, thanks.
thank you, Dave.
If we did the compromise, like, is there enough good equipment to build up one and, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like where if we buy one all new and then buy a new truck and use our existing equipment, do we have enough of our equipment that's good enough that it would be worth it to save the money?
I think so.
Jody, is there any public on there? Anyone else? Okay. Well, if there's no one else,
Thank you, Corbett.
Aaron,
Thanks, Corbett. Nice to
thank
meet
you, Corbett. Appreciate it. We'll go ahead and, next meeting date to be, well, actually,
The one we already
I
have.
think we better keep the one on the 21st. You
For the
okay with that,
budget.
George? Okay, 21st of March. We'll keep that.
Okay,
Is that okay?
yep.
Okay, we'll call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
you. And then we're just gonna
Thanks.
back
24 hours.
Yeah,
Okay.
within 24 hours.